Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing yet another movie review. This movie is an action horror film from South Korea, Korean language English subs, released in the year 2020, directed by Sang Ho-yoon, and this film is called Peninsula. So Peninsula is 4 years after a devastating zombie virus wiped out most of the population in South Korea. Those that are residing in Korea are a handful of survivors and they're undead. So it's now a quarantine zone and our main character is now residing in Hong Kong, but he's treated as an outcast because the residents of Hong Kong see the Korean refugees as untrustworthy and that they could be infected, and so life isn't very good, but life's about to change when the main character is approached by his shady boss who comes up with a plan. Now, there is word that there is a truck in South Korea that has been abandoned containing millions of dollars in cash. And so this boss tells the main character that if he can assemble his own team, infiltrate South Korea quarantine zone and actually get into this truck and get the money, they can all have a cut of the cash and they can all live life happily ever after. So it's an opportunity too good to refuse. It's definitely worth the risk. So he assembles his team, he gets into Korea, but unfortunately nothing is ever that easy, especially when you're dealing with the undead. So whether or not they can actually achieve their mission is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Peninsula. I was very intrigued to see this movie because I was actually made to believe that this is a sequel to Train to Busan, because the overall marketing aspect of this movie was that it was Train to Busan presents Peninsula. It's the same director, so I went in with the expectation that it was going to be a sequel. But unfortunately, I was let down in that regard because this has really nothing to do with that original Train to Busan, apart from the fact that it is the same director and it's taking place inside a world ravaged by a zombie virus. So if you go in there and you're a fan of Train to Busan, you're going to be bitterly disappointed with what this director has done here by marking it as a movie connected to Train to Busan, but really nothing like it. So you feel cheated. You feel as though the director has played a trick on you in actually getting you to watch the film, and so you feel as though you're a bit shortchanged straight from the start because it doesn't have similar characters and it's a completely different sort of story. And so I thought that was a low blow, and I really didn't like Sang Ho-yoon, the way he actually marketed this film to make you believe it was something that it wasn't. But pushing that aside, as far as the marketing disappointment is concerned, was Peninsula worth the effort? And unfortunately, no, it wasn't. I believe that Sang Ho-yoon is a very overrated director. I didn't love Train to Busan as much as many people were making it out. As it was a masterpiece, one of the best zombie horror films ever made. Now, each to their own. Movies are subjective, but for me, I thought that was very repetitive. And it had good aspects and it had fairly scary moments, but I thought as though it forced its melodrama. So coming into Peninsula, believing that this was a sequel, I was expecting more of the same thing, but when I realised that it was a completely different film, it still had the trademarks of Sang Ho-yoon. And those trademarks I thought were very negative in that it was very repetitive. There are scenes in this film that I thought were overused, and so the action sequences do become tiresome after a while. And I thought Peninsula was definitely a missed opportunity. I thought this could have been a film that actually resonated with us as people going through a coronavirus pandemic, and how we treat the unvaccinated and how we treat the infected, in that they are almost not like human beings and we can push them aside and we can judge them, we can discriminate against them. And that was something that I thought was very interesting in the Hong Kong aspect, is that these Hong Kong residents were treating these refugees as outcasts, as almost as though they were monsters, wherein they were just found themselves in a really horrible situation. And so I thought as though it could have actually shown you the human sort of reaction to really horrible events, but it doesn't really concentrate on that. The interesting aspects weren't realised because I thought as though the whole film was very lazy. This had an action sort of Hollywood style to it, where it was a lot of CGI, and it felt like World War Z, Brad Pitt's World War Z. We got these fast running zombies that don't look real, and so you know that you're kind of like in a computer simulation, so you can't connect with anything that's going on. And so the action sequences just lacked a lot of inspiration, it lacked a lot of passion, and I just thought as though it was going through the motions, and it was there simply just to cash in off the name of Train to Busan. So this is a director that hasn't really won me over at all. I think as though he definitely has a lot of potential, but unfortunately I just think he's a lazy filmmaker, and I think Peninsula is definitely a fine example of that. There were no real memorable moments, there were no real memorable characters, and the overall story just felt very generic, and I knew exactly what was going to happen, and unfortunately the film didn't surprise me in a good way. I just thought as though it was very mediocre, not up there with the standard of Korean production, and it pains me to say it because I really wanted to like it. I really wanted to like Train to Busan, but I thought as though there were negatives in there that a lot of people overlook. but this film was just a massive step down. The fact that this is the same director is just, it's very disappointing. So I could excuse this movie if it was made by a different director, but the fact that this is the same director, surely it's enough that you were the guy who made Train to Busan and you're making another film, but you're not trying to cash in off the previous success in a movie that has nothing to do with it. And so it's definitely a very, very lazy exercise in what is CGI and everything that's bad about filmmaking. It's just there's nothing really to like about this film, and as a result of that, I'm only going to give Peninsula 1 star. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.